Jason Rantz, Seattle radio talk show host, joins me now to talk about this. You know, I want to go back to April, okay? Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she actually came out and said that it would be a summer of joy. And boy, is she eating those words right now. And not only did she ever speak about it, speak about this weekend, or ever take responsibility for the crime on her watch, she's instead blaming the judges. When is this going to change? When is she going to get it? Obviously, these Democrat-led cities are to blame, and she's actually at the head of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the issue. It's Lori Lightfoot. She's obviously a big part of this because there's no actual plan. You hear lots of excuses. You can sometimes blame judges, and I think there's actually some merit to that. But ultimately, what we hear is you blame Indiana for guns as if this weren't actually a gang problem. You have a severe Chicago police staffing shortage that no one really wants to talk about. In fact, we know that days off are routinely canceled for police because of the lack of staff. You have Lori Lightfoot pretending that that's not an issue whatsoever. But the truth of the matter is it leads to officer fatigue, which is dangerous for everyone. The only thing on Chicago's side right now is coincidence or happenstance. Before this weekend, you had about a 10% reduction or so in homicides, but that isn't due to any sort of plan, that just because last year was especially bad. And unless they do things with intention, unless they change the environment on the ground that has emboldened these criminals, created this environment in which they believe that they can get away with it, unless you tackle that, this is not going to stop. It's unfortunately going to continue. And we're just heading into the month where we generally see a surge of homicides, not just in Chicago, but across the country.
You know, Gianno Caldwell, as you know, is a Fox News contributor here. And tragically, he just lost his baby brother, Christian, after he was shot on the south side of Chicago. And Gianno has pled with Chicago, has pled with politicians, has pled with the police department to step up and get more power in order to combat the incredible crime that's been going on there. Nothing has been done. It's fallen on deaf ears. And the hope here, and our prayers go out to Gianno's family, is that his little brother Christian's death is not in vain. When are we going to see justice? Because these guys who are responsible for killing these innocent kids are back out on the streets, or they end up robbing or assaulting, and then they're back out on the streets to kill. So this is the problem here. So yes, it is the criminal defense system that is to blame. The bail reform is to blame. These Democrat-led cities, the mayors are to blame. The governors are to blame. Who is going to actually be held accountable?
Well, ultimately, the people are going to have to hold the politicians accountable. They are a big reason why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. And unless you completely clean house, unless you put in place people who actually care about the community, not about their next political gig, unless you do that, you're not going to see any significant change. And unfortunately, you know, when you're dealing with this kind of public health or public safety issue, you don't necessarily want to go into the politics. No one wants to, because there's nothing political about a child who was murdered. But the unfortunate reality is it is politicians who are putting in place these policies that criminals are taking advantage of. And so if you're not going to change the criminal behavior, which obviously we're not going to be able to do that, you have to change the politicians who are putting in place these policies.
You're absolutely right. Liberal Los Angeles DA George Gascon, by the way, with this plea as the recall effort against him is looking extremely strong. In an email to supporters here that writes, quote, "The Republican-led recall effort in LA is on the cusp of qualifying for the ballot this November. And if they are successful, they will reverse all our progress." Now, despite his claim of progress, the numbers in LA are not good. Total crime, robbery, burglary, and theft are all up over this time last year. And there are many critics that are blaming Gascon's progressive policies, including bail reform. Gascon, of course, causing lots of outrage after he defended his policies last month. A career criminal killed 2 police officers while out on probation. His probation officer reportedly had not visited him in more than 6 months. And this is not just in Los Angeles. Here in New York City, as you remember, a 20-year-old mom was shot in the head, point blank, by the father of her 3-month-old baby. Why? Because he had a domestic violent history and, in fact, should have had a restraining order, should have been behind bars. He used to beat the mother of this 3-month-old baby, and he was let out loose. And this is the blood is on the hands of these politicians.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to live in another reality to argue that you're making progress on any of these issues. Now, I understand the Democrats like to redefine words, but let's not redefine progress. Only an ideologue who is blinded by politics, or I suppose a psychopath, could make the claim that this is progress. Every single one of his policies, George Gascon or Alvin Bragg or Larry Kramer and whatnot, every single one of these policies are pro-criminal. They're not pro-victim, they're not pro-cop, they're not pro-society. This is all in favor of victims. You eliminate cash bail, which keeps criminals on the streets. You don't charge gun enhancements, which is weird because you tell me all the time on the left that you guys are anti-gun. But you're not going to charge those enhancements, which gets criminals out of jail quicker. You put violent degenerates in restorative justice programs for music therapy that don't actually work, and they are absolutely a joke. You pretend a 17-year-old kid who murders or tries to murder someone is just a kid who should be treated just like they stole a candy bar from a 7-Eleven. These are policies that are dangerous for us all, and we have to change them. And clearly these politicians, these DAs, are not taking it seriously. So again, this is on all of us. This is on the people who are watching. You have to make the changes at the ballot box.
I would hope so, because something has to change. House Republicans, by the way, totally changing gears here. They're vowing to, quote, investigate Biden's shady business dealings when Republicans take the House in November. 3 top lawmakers writing in an op-ed, we've made almost 100 requests for information relating to Biden family schemes, many including every request made to the Biden administration have been ignored. But with the help of witnesses who have documentation of their dealings with the Biden family, some answers are becoming clear. A Republican majority will be committed to uncovering the facts the Democrats, big tech, and the legacy media have suppressed. Now, this comes after audio emerged from Hunter Biden's laptop, as you well know. It includes a voicemail from his father asking Hunter about his business in China.
And this is just further evidence of what we've known. Joe Biden and Hunter Biden were talking regularly about his foreign deals. And when Joe Biden has said repeatedly, both as president and as a candidate, that he never discussed his foreign dealings with his family, that he's lying. There's no other word for it.
And, you know, remember that Hunter Biden also was heard on his laptop basically saying that his father thought of him as a god and that basically anything he said his father would endorse or support. And then this. So you add those two together and what do you get?
Yeah, I mean, look, there is clear corruption going on. There's a double standard in how the media is treating this story. If this was Donald Trump or one of his kids, this would be a huge story. So there's that angle, and I think that this is incredibly important. However, you also have an historic rise in crime. You have gas and food prices through the roof. You have inflation making your salary seem like it's less than it actually is. You have an open border. You have billions going into Ukraine. I hope that while Republicans do end up getting power in the midterms and they approach this and investigate this, this cannot be the main talking point coming from Republicans right now. It has to be focused on everything else that the American people are deeply feeling.
All right, Jason Rantz, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Happy 4th to you.
Thanks. Happy
Mike.
4th.